doing really well, and a lot of people wanted to buy homes. Yay! Then banks started to realize that they could profit off of this, so they offered people houses that were more expensive than they could afford. Deceptively low interest rates, predatory mortgages, terrible thing. They did this by packaging these mortgages together and selling them to investors. And these investors, they didn't really know what was in these packages, but they didn't care because the housing market was doing great, and so were they. The housing bubble burst, housing prices started to fall, and people started to default on these predatory mortgages. Now these commercial banks are continuing to recklessly foreclose on struggling homeowners.
You are inspiring a national movement. Right now the whole country is watching what's happening on this campus. I want you to know that. We're not the ones who have to be nervous. It's the people in the offices making the decision whether to stand with the people and the students or the maniacs who crashed our economy. They need to be nervous.
Step profit! Put people over profit!
What you're doing is part of a local and national strategy to hold banks and big corporations accountable. And this is where it all starts. This is the grassroots. When we start talking about where people are putting their money and where people are putting their investments, that's all about values.
24 hours, 7 days a week. We are the students turning up the heat.
Well, one of the reasons I chose to come to Macalester College was that I wanted a place where activism, social justice was valued. And I got a great political education here in terms of activism and organizing. This campus was very, very political around the war in Vietnam. And I heard lots of stories about sit-ins and protests. And what's going on today is just an extension of that wonderful activist tradition. And I'm so proud of my daughter for being a part of that. They're going up against some very well-financed corporate entities that are digging in to support the status quo.
We are confused and we are disappointed by the administration's resistance to this simple step that would make a huge difference. But we are strong and we will continue to stand with our community. This is the beginning of a new 3-year phase of Kick Wells Fargo Off Campus. We hope the administration comes to its senses soon.
We are the community turning up the heat. 24 hours, 7 days a week.
He said, good job, keep going.
He said that when the marriage amendment was placed on the ballot, there were a ton of people at the Capitol who had worked really hard to make sure it wouldn't even get that far. They were really disappointed. So they started this rallying cheer of, we've just begun to fight.
We repeated our request to end Macalester's purchasing card business relationship with Wells Fargo and to move our money into Sunrise Community Bank, which is a stand with local business, a stand with the community, a stand with students.
They said no, they were refusing to budge. We talked to them about different negotiations, ways that we could kind of extend the process and make it easier for them to cut the contract in a comfortable way for an administration. And they still refused to make that move. They do not want to take a political stance against a large corporation.
There was very little recognition of just the depth of pain that this housing crisis has caused to our community.
They focused on the tactics instead of the issue, and they saw cutting the contract as somehow ceding to student power as if that would be a bad thing.
Brian Rosenberg said that it went against his principles to bend to pressure. He says when he makes decisions, he just makes them.
It's against our principles to be part of an institution that sides with corporate values over the call of our community, the call to move our money from Wells Fargo.